Day, April 17th, here in Seoul.
Coming up on NEWSCENTER tonight. Speculation grows that North Korea-Russia summit could happen sometime next week. This while Washington's chief negotiator Began makes his trip to Russia.
Leaders of South Korea and Turkmenistan agreed to expand bilateral economic cooperation in various industries, including energy and infrastructure.
The South Korean government rolls out measures to boost the local economy. They include a multi-billion-dollar fund to help construction firms win orders overseas.
Authorities on Jeju Island revoke a Chinese company's license to operate what was said to be South Korea's first for-profit hospital.
Tech giants Apple and Qualcomm end a bitter 2-year legal battle over patent fees, agreeing to settle all ongoing lawsuits. We take a look at what this means for Apple's rivals, Samsung. NEWSCENTER begins now. Hello and welcome to Arirang NEWSCENTER, live from Seoul. I'm Han Daeun.
And I'm Noaram. Thank you as always for joining us this evening. Now, we begin with the growing speculation on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's possible visit to Russia. More signs are pointing to a potential summit between Kim and Russian President Vladimir Putin, which many believe will likely take place sometime this month.
Could North Korea be turning to Russia's support amid continuing nuclear standoff? Our Lee Ji-won tells us more.
An extra flight from Pyongyang to the Russian city of Vladivostok has been scheduled for North Korea's Air Koryo next Tuesday. The plane is to take off at 11 a.m. and arrive in Vladivostok's international airport an hour and a half later. Flights from Pyongyang to Vladivostok are normally scheduled for every Monday and Friday. The extra flight schedule has been confirmed by an official at Vladivostok International Airport, but the official said they do not have the exact details of it. This further fuels speculation that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could visit Russia next week for a summit with President Vladimir Putin. In fact, a Russian paper, Izvestia, citing a Russian Foreign Affairs Ministry official, said Russia is indeed preparing for Kim's visit in the coming week, with the agenda including development of economic relations under the sanctions. Neither side has officially confirmed anything about the possible meeting. But earlier this month, Russia's presidential aide Yuri Ushakov confirmed that an invitation has been handed over to the north and that Russia is waiting for a response from Pyongyang. Since last year, as North Korea has been getting more involved in talks with South Korea and the U.S., Kim Jong-un visited China 4 times. And with the Hanoi summit collapsing without an agreement, pundits have been speculating that Kim is also likely to try to highlight the North's alliance with Russia.
Kim recently said he will wait until the end of the year for the U.S. to change its stance. So until then, the regime needs to survive through the sanctions. And though China is a bigger partner to North Korea, it's not so easy to rely on Beijing as they still have their ongoing trade war with Washington.
Professor Park, however, added that there won't be any actual economic projects or trade deals that Kim and Putin can agree on because of the sanctions. But by meeting with Putin, Kim will be standing up to the U.S., highlighting his regional alliances, and possibly getting some humanitarian aid from Moscow as well. Should Kim Jong-un fly over to Russia next week, the two leaders are likely to have the first Pyongyang-Moscow summit in 8 years on April 24th, the day after Kim's expected arrival. Putin is scheduled to fly to Beijing for a forum on China's One Belt, One Road initiative later that week. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea is also due in Russia to discuss the North's denuclearization. According to the U.S. State Department, Stephen Biegun will be there from Wednesday to Thursday for talks with Russian officials about advancing North Korea's final, fully verified denuclearization. The Kremlin says preparations are ongoing, but there's been no final decision on the time or location. It's almost been a year since the historic inter-Korean summit took place at the symbolic border village of Panmunjom. While the nuclear impasse still remains to be resolved, experts say it's important for the two Koreas and the U.S. to have a clear definition of the term denuclearization. Our Jong-hye with more.
A year has passed since the historic first Moon-Kim summit at the inter-Korean border village of Panmunjom. Where do the two Koreas stand now in achieving complete denuclearization and ending the Korean War? At a conference hosted by a unification think tank in Seoul, pundits pointed out that the parties still don't agree on what denuclearization means. So because they haven't agreed on the goal, they can't agree on a roadmap either.
It's been a year since the denuclearization talks began, but not much has been discussed in terms of what it means exactly. The document that Trump handed over to Kim in Hanoi lacks detail, while North Korea has never defined what it means by denuclearizing. That's why there are doubts over Kim's willingness to denuclearize.
The Hanoi summit ended without an agreement, and nuclear negotiations have hit another snag. Naturally, that means South Korea faces a challenge in its role as mediator. Analysts say Seoul should be more proactive. It should be neither a mediator nor a facilitator, but a planner. For Seoul to facilitate dialogue and play a bigger role, experts suggest setting up a bilateral working group between South and North Korea, or even a trilateral one among the two Koreas and the U.S. Discussions about denuclearization should not be restricted to Pyongyang and Washington.
To achieve peace and unification on the Korean peninsula, there should be a body set up by the two sides for co-governance. We should look at the possibility of an inter-Korean working group.
Experts say peace on the Korean peninsula can only be achieved on the basis of denuclearization, normalizing North Korea-U.S. relations, and arms control between the two Koreas. Seoul, they say, should be in the driver's seat, leading the talks. Jong-hye, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in has agreed to join forces with the leader of Turkmenistan on areas including economic cooperation and energy. The two leaders also assured each other of their hopes for peace on the Korean peninsula. Our Shin Se-min reports from the capital of Turkmenistan.
Presidents Moon Jae-in of South Korea and Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov of Turkmenistan met for their first sit-down Wednesday and agreed to upgrade their countries' ties on energy cooperation and much more. The two leaders noted that their countries have continued to better their relations after having upgraded to a mutually beneficial partnership 11 years ago. Signing the $3 billion petrochemical plant site in Turkmenistan built by the global consortium led by Korea's Hyundai Engineering and LG International, the leaders agreed to continue such work in the energy plant sector. The presidents also sought ways to expand their bilateral cooperation into areas such as health, medical care, and the ICT sector, something they say will help better the livelihoods of their people. The Turkmen's president expressed his will to become a member of the Global Green Growth Institute based in Seoul and share his country's experience in creating sustainable forests. He also expressed his support for the South Korean government's peace drive on the Korean peninsula, which President Moon said is a great help as the future of the region stretches all the way to Eurasia. The two leaders put their promises down on paper, leading to some 25 new agreements, which include the promotion of industrial sectors from energy and logistics and a revision of the tax treaty. The presidents of South Korea and Turkmenistan are hoping that their first meeting together will work to bring the two countries closer together in terms of diplomacy, economy, and on a people-to-people level. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Ashgabat.
The South Korean government has come up with plans to help boost the sagging domestic economy, which include a $2.6 billion fund to help builders expand overseas and easing some regulations on new industries. Our Kim Da-mi has the details.
As a part of efforts to revitalize the country's falling exports, the South Korean government will create a global planned construction and smart city fund. At a meeting of economy-related ministers on Wednesday, the country's finance minister, Hong Nam-gi, introduced a project worth some $2.6 billion to help construction companies expand overseas. For the first phase of the fund, worth about $1.3 billion, the government will contribute $130 million, while 10 public companies will invest almost $400 million. Hong said his ministry will review creating part of the fund from the supplementary budget proposal.
The Global Plant Fund will bring around $40 billion worth of overseas orders and pave the way for South Korean companies to join about 80 investment and developing projects.
The government also announced it will ease 31 regulations on new industries and technologies. That includes enabling sales of health supplements at large supermarkets and department stores and getting rid of the registration process required for businesses to sell such supplements. In addition, the government plans to develop the nuclear decommissioning industry. The Trade Ministry says it will nurture know-how and technology from the country's atomic energy phase-out plan and aim to grab 10% of the world's $480 billion nuclear decommissioning market by 2035. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Now, public health care is a sensitive issue anywhere in the world, and in Korea, there has been a years-long debate on whether the country should allow hospitals to run for profit. Well, Jeju Island authorities have revoked a Chinese company's license to operate what was set to be Korea's first for-profit hospital. Oh Soo-young has the details.
Jeju authorities have cancelled a permit to launch a Chinese-owned hospital on Korea's southernmost island on Wednesday. Governor Arirang announced the decision, saying that Greenland International Hospital had missed the 3-month deadline on launching its services last month. He added that the hospital did not provide a sufficient excuse on the delay and requested an extension of the opening period only when the deadline was almost up. Owned by Shanghai-based Greenland Group, the medical centre was set to become the country's first investor-owned or for-profit hospital. In Korea, all hospitals are classified as non-profit, requiring earnings to be invested into improving services rather than generating profit for shareholders. However, for-profit hospitals can attract foreign direct investment, as well as a so-called brain gain of talented personnel. That's why the law permits for-profit institutions to be built on Jeju Island and 8 free economic zones, if the share of foreign investment is at least 50%. However, critics argue that this would derail the national healthcare system, which subsidises medical costs for citizens, and lead to a slippery slope of rising medical costs for the general Korean public. The debate has been ongoing since construction plans for Greenland was approved in 2015 by the Health Ministry. Given the various concerns, the Jeju government last year finally gave the green light, but on the condition that Greenland International Hospital only treats foreign patients. However, Greenland Group cried foul, filing a lawsuit against the Jeju government in February and showed little signs of meeting last month's operation launch deadline. As uncertainty remains on the future of the 3-storey hospital, it's expected the public will be just as divided as ever on whether limiting for-profit medical centres protects or harms the public's right to decent healthcare. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
K-pop sensation BTS are smashing record after record, and the Korean economy is also benefiting from their sky-high achievements. Seo Bin explains.
South Korean K-pop stars BTS have had massive success in the global music charts, and this success is trickling over to the Korean economy. As global awareness of BTS rises, more foreign tourists are visiting Korea, and exports of Korean consumer goods are increasing. According to the Hyundai Research Institute, the impact of BTS on the Korean economy last year is estimated at $4.93 billion. This is about 26 times the average revenue of a local mid-sized firm.
The economic impact mainly seems to come from the effect of advertising through SNS or YouTube. Advertising linked to BTS is a key factor for companies' profits, and that can lead to an increase in consumer goods exports as well.
From when BTS debuted until end of last year, it has been estimated that an average of 800,000 foreign tourists per year have visited South Korea due to BTS. Closing, food, and beverages exports have also benefited, with cosmetics exports increasing by 0.72 percentage points for every 1 index point increase in awareness of BTS. With such impact, BTS has given the name Walking Conglomerate, and their success has put many other K-pop artists in the spotlight as well. With the support of their loyal fan base, BTS will likely continue to boost the Korean economy. 서보빈, Arirang News.
More than 200,000 people have signed a petition on the Blue House website demanding a special investigation into the Sewol-ho ferry sinking. A council comprised of survivors and relatives of the victims wrote that the prosecution needs to compel witnesses to testify, especially with recent findings suggesting the ship's CCTV cameras had been tampered with. The petition says only a reinvestigation can reveal the truth and clarify who is responsible, and demanded that the government assign a special team to the case. Having passed the 200,000 signature threshold, the presidential office will have to respond. Former President Park Geun-hye, jailed for abuse of power and corruption, has asked to be released because of a medical condition she says is causing extreme physical pain. Her attorney filed a petition at the Seoul Central District Court on Wednesday. The petition says Park is unable to sleep because of pain caused by her cervical and lumbar discs and that she needs medical treatment. Park has been behind bars since March 2017 and was sentenced to 2 years in prison for influence peddling. That sentence ended yesterday, but she still has to serve another 2 years for interfering in candidate nominations. The law lets prosecutors suspend sentences for convicts suffering from serious illness. The prosecution is expected to decide after deliberating in a committee. Gyeongsangnam-do Province Governor Kim Kyung-soo has been released on bail after being detained for 77 days over an online comment rigging scandal. The Seoul High Court approved Kim's request for bail on Wednesday based on the grounds that he is a sitting governor and he doesn't pose a flight risk. He was sentenced in January to 2 years in prison for his involvement in the manipulation of online comments ahead of the 2017 presidential election, but the appeals trial is still ongoing. Kim was released under the condition that he stays within his residential area in Changwon, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, and gets court permission if he wishes to leave the area for more than 4 days. He also needs to pay bail of about $180,000. Now, a surprise ending to the bitter legal battle between Apple and Qualcomm. The two tech giants have agreed to settle all ongoing lawsuits against each other. Now, Choi Si-young explains what this means to Apple's biggest rival, Samsung Electronics.
Apple and Qualcomm have agreed to settle all of their ongoing lawsuits, bringing a surprise end to the massive legal dispute that's seen the two tech giants sue each other across the globe. As part of the settlement, Apple will pay Qualcomm an undisclosed lump sum. They've also reached a 6-year global patent licensing agreement, which can be extended for another 2 years. In addition, Qualcomm will supply parts to Apple for the next several years. Until the settlement, the two companies had fought in the courts for 2 years over the way Qualcomm licenses its patents. Apple accused Qualcomm of charging unreasonably high fees for essential patents and of using its position as the dominant supplier of smartphone modems to demand those fees. The lawsuit began in January 2017, but the two companies entered court just this week. The settlement is bad news for chipmaker Intel. There had been speculation that Apple was planning to use its 5G chips for its 2020 iPhones. But some experts say this could help rival Samsung Electronics, pointing to the fact that unlike Apple, it has the technology to produce both 5G chips and smartphones.
The market for 5G smartphones will be growing and the competition for greater market share will be fierce. Samsung Electronics has the upper hand in 5G technology, so it will likely benefit from the new growing market.
Samsung Electronics commercialized the world's first 5G smartphone weeks ago on April 5th. Choi Si-young, Arirang News.
The president of France has vowed to rebuild the historic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris that was engulfed by a massive fire earlier this week. Fortunately, many of the cathedral's priceless treasures were saved despite the damage. Our Kim Mo-gyun with the latest.
French President Emmanuel Macron vowed to reconstruct the fire-ravaged Notre Dame Cathedral and said France can transform the disaster into an opportunity to come together and repair one of the country's most symbolic sites.
I'm telling you this tonight with force. We are a people of builders. We have so much to rebuild. So yes, we will rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral even more beautifully, and I want this to be done within 5 years. We can do it, and here again we will mobilize.
During his brief televised address on Tuesday local time, Macron said he hopes the restoration work will be completed by the time the city hosts the Summer Olympics set for 2024. However, some experts say that the reconstruction could take from 10 up to 40 years to complete. After the fire destroyed parts of the 12th century cathedral on Monday, people across the world donated nearly $1 billion to help restore the UNESCO World Heritage Site. On the bright side, the cathedral's main structure has remained intact, as well as several artifacts, including the crown of thorns, the 8,000-pipe great organ, and at least one of the 3 stained glass rose windows. Recovered artwork has been taken to the storage facilities owned by the Louvre, where they are being restored and conserved. On the cause of the incident, French prosecutors said the fire was probably an accident, as they found no evidence of arson so far. About 50 police are working on the probe and have been questioning 15 workers involved in the renovation of the cathedral's roof, where the fire broke out. Much like the restoration, the investigation is expected to be a long and complex process. Kim Mo-kyan, Arirang News.
The number of Japanese visitors to South Korea keeps on rising despite the two nations' less than favorable diplomatic ties. Our Kang Young-woo tells us why.
South Korea's tourism industry is welcoming the rising wave of Japanese visitors. Despite worsening diplomatic relations between Seoul and Tokyo due to the recent South Korea-Japan radar lock dispute and the South Korean Supreme Court's ruling in favor of forced labor victims, the number of Japanese visitors to South Korea keeps going up and up. According to the Korea Tourism Organization, the number of Japanese visitors posted more than 20% on-month increases in January and February. It says Japan's younger generations, who are mostly undeterred by political or diplomatic issues and more interested in K-pop, fashion, and beauty, are one of the main driving factors behind the upswing. With the Golden Week, a 10-day-long break in Japan coming up at the end of April, South Korea will see the number of visitors from Japan swell during the holidays. According to global tour agency Trip.com, flight bookings from Japan to South Korea during Golden Week have soared by 361% compared to the same period last year. Global tour search engine Skyscanner also released a report that shows Seoul is the most searched for destination by Japanese during the upcoming Golden Week. Earlier this month, the Korea Tourism Organization held a convention in Fukuoka to promote the new Hallyu, the boom of Korean culture, entertainment, and products that have spread across the world. Kang Young-woo, Arirang News.
Some 380,000 foreign patients visited Korea last year, an almost 18% increase from the year before. The Health Ministry released data on Wednesday showing that patients from 190 countries received medical care in Korea last year. The data refers to patients without a Korean address or national health insurance. Over 2 million foreign patients have visited Korea for treatment since the country first allowed this in 2009.
Last year, Koreans used mobile devices to make payments worth more than 80 trillion won, or roughly $70 billion. Data from the Financial Supervisory Service shows that a whopping 60% hike from a year before. The latest amount includes all transactions made with electronic credit and debit cards, as well as mobile payment platforms such as Samsung Pay. Korea's agriculture industry continues to struggle, with most local farmers recording average sales of less than $9,000 last year. According to Statistics Korea, the number of farmers also fell in 2018, dropping 2% on year to just over 1 million, with their average age also increasing. The decline is mostly attributed to Korea's rapid aging and urbanization. Less than half of young Koreans are interested in getting married or having children, adding to concerns over the country's chronic low birth rate. The National Youth Policy Institute conducted a survey last year on about 3,100 people aged 15 to 39. Less than 43% of them said they want to tie the knot, a stark contrast to the 56% recorded in 2016. Only 44% said they want to have children, down 10 percentage points from the previous year. Starting this Saturday, for 24 hours, disabled people can use call taxi services for free to mark the National Day of the Disabled. Those eligible include people with severe physical disabilities, brain lesions and some wheelchair users. More details are on the website of the Seoul Facilities Corporation. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It's now time to take a look at some of the digital media content available on Arirang's website and, of course, other social media platforms.
And today we have another episode of Koryo with Den and Mandu from Canada, showing us what you can do at night here in Korea.
6시 고양 TNT. 헐, 감사합니다. 진짜. Mango approved. Hey guys, but one of my favorite parts of living in Korea is that it's this place that never sleeps.
It's 12:05 now.
So it's really late and we're gonna show you some of the things that you can do at night in Korea. Let's go! We can still go shopping. Like, look at all these stores. Look at them all. What? 예쁘대요? 여기서 몇 시 끝나요?
3시에 끝나는 사람 있고 4시에 끝나는 사람 있고.
와. 딩딩딩딩딩. 하고 싶어요.
사고 싶어?
감사합니다. 이거 운동. 감사합니다. I love her. She's like a mom. I miss my mom. Oh, I really liked her.
It's almost 1.
Oh my gosh. So this place is so busy right now, and so we decided to get tteokbokki, odeng, and then she's also making some japchae for us right there. All right, here we go. So this is so cool because I've never seen japchae. It's like a street food before. Asak. Sexy. This magic drink. You never know with tteokbokki. It can either be super spicy, a little bit sweet. It's the 매워한 거. 그냥 음식 단어 잘 알아요. 다른 단어 잘 못해요.
우리 24시?
진짜요? 와, 피곤했죠. Most stores in my hometown close at 9 p.m. And then we have to go home. So this is just insane. So there are actually so many more things that you can do here. You can go to the movies, you can go to Noraebang, PCbang, you name it, you can probably do it at night. But I want to show you my favorite thing to do at night in Korea. Okay. It's 2:30 in the morning. And look at this view. 대박이다. I really can't believe that there's still so many lights on, even though it's so late at night. It's amazing, because in my hometown, most of the pretty lights come on during Christmas time when people decorate their houses. But here, it feels like Christmas all year round, and the magic never ends. 너무 좋아. So, what's your favorite part of Korea? I want to hear your story too. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button, and we'll see you next time. 오늘은 뿅!
Unseasonably warm weather is continuing, and in fact, it's quite hot in here too, in the studio.
That's right, and it's certainly now time for a t-shirt, I guess. And the East Coast also saw a high of 27 degrees Celsius today, so quite higher than the seasonal norms. For details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Hi guys, now as the warm southwestern wind continues to track its way onto the peninsula, it's intensifying the dryness as well. Now tomorrow we are expecting stronger winds of about 10 meters per second in parts of Gyeongsangnam-do Province, so please be careful and also stay alert from any sources of fire. Now light showers are expected in the northern parts of the peninsula, while the regions down southern regions will have partly cloudy skies. Now, due to the hazy skies, Beijing's high will be lower than the recent days. The morning temperatures are expected to be warmer than today in most parts. Now, Seoul will get up to 12 degrees Celsius, while Busan and Jeju will be warmer, kicking off to 13 and 14 degrees. Heavy cloud cover will keep the mercury from rising too high in Seoul and topping out to 16 degrees and Busan in the 20s. Now, mild weather continues, but make sure to bring a jacket out as you can expect a temperature difference of about 10 degrees Celsius, and also Jeju can expect some showers over on Sunday. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
Well, the weather certainly does look very nice for an outing. Well, that does it for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
News in depth is coming up shortly, so stay tuned.